Have you ever wondered what the super rich do when they sense a currency crisis is coming? It's not what you see in the movies. There are no frantic phone calls or last-minute dashes to the bank. It's a quiet, calculated, almost invisible process. But it follows a script that has played out time and time again, across different countries and even centuries. Every time a major currency starts to wobble, three things happen, and they happen early. First, gold prices start to climb. Second, the world's reserve currency, usually the US dollar, becomes scarce. And third, certain assets that most people ignore suddenly become incredibly valuable. By the time the general public starts to feel the pinch, the wealthy have already moved their assets to safety. They've crossed the bridge while everyone else is just realizing it's on fire. At the beginning of a currency crisis, it feels like nothing is wrong. Life goes on as normal. You hear economists on the news debating abstract concepts like inflation and fiscal policy, and it all seems so distant, like a game they're playing. But behind the scenes, a different game is being played. The smart money, the old money, starts quietly making its exit. They're not selling everything in a panic, they're strategically moving out of the system, piece by piece. Then, when the public finally wakes up and the panic hits the streets, it's too late. The escape routes are already clogged, the lifeboats are full, and guess what? That exact pattern is starting to unfold right now, all around us. We're seeing major world currencies weakening at the same time. The Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, even the euro are all showing signs of strain, and despite its status as the world's reserve currency, the US dollar is immune. We're seeing stress fractures appear in places like government bond auctions and in the reserves held by other countries. These aren't the kind of signals you notice when you're buying groceries. You won't see them on the price tag of a gallon of milk, at least not at first. These signals show up in complex financial spreadsheets and institutional reports. While most of us see rising prices and just think inflation is bad, billionaires and institutional investors see something different. They see leaking plumbing in the global financial system. They see the foundation starting to crack. One of the biggest misconceptions about currency collapses is that they happen slowly and predictably, giving everyone plenty of time to react. The truth is the exact opposite. Currencies don't politely decline. They snap. They melt down. They can vanish almost overnight into hyperinflation or a sudden government default. We've seen this happen again and again. Think about Argentina in 2001, when people's life savings were wiped out in a matter of weeks. Or Russia in 1998, when the ruble collapsed. Or Iceland in 2008, a modern, developed nation whose currency became nearly worthless. More recently, look at Lebanon since 2019. These countries have vastly different political systems, cultures, and economies, but the underlying math is always the same. Here's the formula. A government gets into financial trouble. To pay its bills, it starts printing more and more money. This constant printing dilutes the value of every single dollar, euro, or peso already in circulation. At first, it's a slow burn, but eventually, people lose faith in the currency itself. That loss of faith is the tipping point. It triggers a panic, and everyone rushes for the exits at once, trying to trade their rapidly devaluing cash for something, anything, with real, tangible value. The very assets that the rich have been quietly accumulating all along, things like gold, real estate, and productive businesses, suddenly become the only safe havens. They become the lifeboats in a financial hurricane. Now let's look at the United States. The national debt has surged past an astronomical $34 trillion. That number is so large it's hard to even comprehend. But here's what makes it truly alarming. The interest payments alone on that debt now cost the U.S. government more than $1 trillion every single year. $1 trillion just to service the debt, not even to pay it down. In the world of politics, this gets framed as a debate between different parties about spending and taxes. But in the world of finance, it looks very different. It looks like a countdown clock. And as history has shown us, countdowns rarely end quietly, they usually end with a bang. So, what do billionaires and the financial elite actually do in this situation? They don't wait for the alarm bells to start ringing. They act long before the public even senses that there's danger on the horizon. Their strategy, isn't dramatic or flashy. You won't read about it on the front page of the newspaper. It's a quiet, operational shift in their portfolios. They begin to rotate out of their home currency and into assets that are less likely to be affected by a domestic crisis. This could mean moving into more stable foreign currencies, like the Swiss franc. It could mean buying physical gold or other commodities like oil and copper. Or it could mean investing in sovereign assets or international companies that generate revenue in multiple currencies. The key is diversification away from a single point of failure. They understand that holding all of your wealth in one currency, controlled by one government, is an enormous risk, especially when that government is buried under a mountain of debt. They're not just trying to make more money. At this stage, their primary goal is wealth preservation. They are building a financial ark designed to withstand the coming storm. They methodically reduce their exposure to assets that depend on the health of a single currency, like government bonds, and increase their holdings of real, tangible assets that have intrinsic value. This isn't about predicting the exact day the system will break. It's about recognizing the mounting pressures and positioning yourself for resilience. While the average person is hoping for the best, the ultra-wealthy are preparing for the worst. They aren't betting against their country. They are hedging against a predictable mathematical outcome. They see the writing on the wall, not in the headlines, but in the balance sheets. The plumbing is leaking, the countdown has begun, and the quiet exit has already started. The big question is, will the rest of us notice before the exits are sealed? Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that looks behind the curtain of the global economy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.